Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Item number 1 is the bid award recommendation for the automated side load refuse truck.
Mayor and Council, I'm sorry that I didn't get a letter of recommendation prepared. However, I've provided you with the bid tabulation. We received 3 bids. One from Hardline Equipment for a Dennis Eagle truck with a Con refuse body. And 2 different bids from Floyd's Truck Center. They provided 2 because one where they partnered with Ameritech for a Con refuse body, and another one where they partnered with Southwest Equipment for a Champion refuse body. In this case, the lowest bid was for the Floyd's Truck Center Freightliner M2 106 Plus with a Southwestern Equipment / Champion refuse body. Not only is that the lowest bid, but after doing some research, we have found that the Champion refuse body meets all the requirements for the town, and it's the most common body used in this general vicinity, so many people are readily available to work on it. All refuse trucks are gonna take more than a year to get here, so we understand that we need to keep ours running efficiently for at least the next year, and we would plan to keep ours anyway as our backup in the future, but the bottom line is, in this case, the one that checks all the boxes and that meets all of our requirements and is the lowest price is the Freightliner with the Champion body, and the price for that is $261,090.
Those are all side loading.
Yes, those are all side loading. Again, the 2 from Floyd's Truck Center were both Freightliners, the same model. The only difference in the 2 for pricing was one is the Con refuse body and the other one was the Champion refuse body. We also contacted the references and Southwestern Equipment that would install the Champion refuse body, came with glowing recommendations from all those that have worked with Southwestern Equipment. So
The Con box is just that much more expensive, or the bodies?
you know, I don't know if it's that the Con box is that much more expensive or the company installing the Con box is more expensive. Those were 2 different, the one company was Floyd's Truck Center, putting in the Con refuse body. Let's see, $129,450. So I would imagine that the biggest difference is the biggest difference comes between the 2 of them on the price from the Ameritech is, just around $190,000. And the price from Southwestern was approximately $129,450. It was $129,450. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I move to award the bid for the automated side load refuse truck to Floyd's Truck Center with Southwestern Equipment.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Floyd's Truck Center with the Southwestern Equipment body. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is visitor comments.
How much time is allocated for that?
Well, that's the only spot for you, so if you're a visitor,
Well,
that's
I
where you
have
go.
my stuff very organized, so. I have a couple questions on the lease agreement that I wanna overview with everybody too, just. So, that's one for you, I have 7, I need to keep one of these. One for you.
Yeah,
Kim.
right now, get one?
I can have one, as long as I get Kim's copy, should've made one.
No, that's quite all right.
Okay, so if we can skip over this first bit real
First,
quick.
first, you need to come up here. Can you just state your name?
My name is Mark Michaud. I'm the owner of SMT Aerostructures at the airport. This is, what I want to discuss is our expansion plans for the business out there. The first thing I would like to discuss is the lease that the town has. I just have a few questions, primarily for Alex, in regards to that, on what some of this terminology means. If you skip past to about the 9th page here, you'll see the Pine Bluffs Airport hangar lease section. So the thing that I want to clarify is that the verbiage in here does not result in me ceasing to own the structure at the end of this term, or any of the leases.
So which section on page
So
9?
if we go to page 1, over to, actually turn on to section 7, it's going to be surrender of the property. Highlighted in yellow. Okay, it says, right under section 7, upon expiration or termination of this agreement for any reason, the leaseor may at its sole discretion do any of the following. So our attorney tells us this means that the town at the end of it can select any of these that they so choose without us having the legal right to do anything about it. So that provision states that if the town says we own the building, as per section 7C, I can do nothing about that, and I have to just surrender ownership to the town.
Which is,
We're not
which is,
comfortable-
just to be clear, the sample lease we received that was,
This is
that
the,
everybody used as a, from Uinta County, said exactly this.
okay,
Said that we have the ability to pick one of these options. It will like I think that's easily the most common, but
okay, we're just not comfortable doing the expansion unless there's a provision that allows us to keep the structure, because we're looking at investing a very substantial amount into this project. I understand the fact that we can't do a renewal of that we can't own the land, we have to have some provision to renew it. I would just like something in here that lets us at least keep the building. Because, I mean, this expansion project we're looking at doing is over 1.5 million in a whole. That's not something that my company's comfortable investing, that we lose 25 years down the road.
we have 40, right?
Yes, I guess there are 3 5-year renewal terms worked into that. I did call the FAA and discuss this in depth with the Denver Flight Standards District office, and they didn't seem to think that there was anything in our FARs that state that we can't have ability to continue to renew that beyond that. So just, I would like the council's thoughts on that and what we could do to work with us on that, and that's
So,
my only concern.
I just wanna say that I wanna make this workable, but I also, like, what's our protection?
Protection from what?
What's the protection of the council 40 years from now?
Protection from what? Specifically, what is it the council
From
is?
you owning a building in perpetuity on public property?
Well, that's,
Without review from more current members of our body.
okay, section 7C kind of puts that in, the removal of structures. It gives you guys a clause that Alex wrote into this that basically says if we anger the council and you guys vote, that we have to get the building off, we have to remove it and get away, you know, leave the airport, which I'm fine, everybody's okay with that part being in there.
But just to be clear, what I'm saying though is, like, I don't really know the answer to this, nor am I taking an approach that I have it all figured out. But, like, if we wrote it that you are guaranteed to be able to release it, what does section C matter at all?
I just want a provision in there that makes it to where the town would be obligated to pay the value of the structure at that point is all I'm after, but you guys can retain the right to force our exit if you need that. That's something that I would say would be fair, is if the building, having basically a clause in there that says the building's to be appraised, and then if it's, cause obviously by that point, it's gonna be depreciated some amount. The way it is written now though, basically makes us lose every bit of equity we put into that. And if I sell the building to someone down the road, say 10 years later, I decide to sell the company, I've lost all of that value towards the end of that lease in the structure, because it holds no value. And up to about the 25th year, the building is almost completely worthless at that point, because the lease, the way it's written, would result in the town having ability to just hostilely take it over essentially and own it completely.
So I'm asking, is in any of your research, have you found an example where on a public airport, they leased property in perpetuity to someone without a provision where it's generally accepted practice to release it, but where it's written in stone that it stays there?
No, I can't. I mean, I could try to, but this is a difficult thing to get your hands on from another governing entity.
Sure.
I mean, to me, that is somewhat, I guess, irrelevant. Is the council willing to work with what I'm proposing here?
So what are you, do you have language you're proposing?
Yeah, I would just like a clause added in here that under the surrender clause, section B, the town has to assess and pay fair value for the structure if that's what they choose. Because I'm fine with that, like 25 years from now, if the town says, yeah, we'd be more comfortable owning the building and then leasing it back to you guys, that's great. I'm fine with that. I just don't wanna invest the upfront capital and then lose that equity in the building. So I think the best place to add it would be under 7B. Just an extension of that, like, at the end of this, if town so chooses to force surrender of the building, it will be appraised at fair value, and then the leasee will be paid fair market value for the building.
So I have a question under your proposed suggestion. What if you want to be done at the end of the lease?
Then I would be responsible for selling it to someone else or to the town.
But we would not be obligated to buy it from you.
No, I don't think I'd write that in there, because
Yeah.
if the town's not in a financial position to do that, I think that right
Well,
should
that's
just
what
be.
concerns me about your, the
Oh,
other
no,
side of your
I
proposal.
wouldn't
is
write
whether
that.
we would be
Yeah, I
in
wouldn't
a
write that in
position to
there.
buy it from you.
No, I think that, I guess an easy way around that would be if the town's not interested at that part and then we aren't interested in renewing it, then the leasee is obligated to find a purchaser for it.
And anyone else?
Who at the FSDO did you speak with?
A guy named Jay, I don't remember his last name, but he's our district inspector.
You didn't talk to John Bauer?
No, I have not. So those are the concerns as far as the lease goes, that I just need to preserve our equity in the company somehow.
But
Those
I
are my
think-
suggestions.
I think the strange thing to me is, and like, we are certainly welcome to make whatever decision we make as a governing body about that. But I don't wanna challenge you to find this example anywhere, because I don't think you'll find one. I think this is way outside the normal parameters of what these leases look like.
If it is, it gives us an edge against other places for expansion then.
Sure. I couldn't disagree with you about that. I think it depends also about what you think our motive is. Like, if you think our motive is to steal a building from you in 45 years, that's not our motive.
I don't think that that's the motive of the current
And
council.
I'm not being argumentative.
Playing
you don't know
devil's
what the council's
advocate, my
gonna be.
concern is what the council looks like 25 years from now or even 10 years from
Right.
now. So, as of now, no, I don't see that being an issue, but if somebody comes and let's say I sell the company in 10 years and the council takes a turn in a direction that they're hostily taking over everything they can, that's gonna devalue my company by up to $1 million if we put that kind of
Yeah, I
growth
don't
into
disagree
it.
with that. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's very difficult to write a lease that protects both of us from this problem. I can just tell you, I am not comfortable saddling someone 45 years from now to pay you fair market value for something we don't know
Want.
anything about. So you're effectively saying the lease is running, because we're never going to have the money to buy it from you, likely. I can't speak for what happens 45 years from now or 40 years from now.
So we just need a
But
clause.
I think you're basically telling us that we're going to lease this to you forever.
No, that's not what I'm interested in. I'm just interested in preserving the equity of the buildings. I just need a clause in here that protects that on both behalves, because like you said, if the town doesn't have interest in doing so 25 years down the road, there has to be some kind of clause in here that it can be a private sale with the council's approval. So if 25 years from now I wanna sell the company, I need to find a buyer, but that would also result in a new lease. So whoever that buyer is going to have to agree on something with the council at that point in time on another acceptable lease. But the equity in the building is preserved that way. And no, have zero interest in, I am not asking you guys for an indefinite lease. I am simply asking for a lease that has provisions to preserve the equity of the business inside it.
But I'm asking you, what's the difference? It's the same thing, right? Like, that's what you're asking of us, is either it's fair market value or you can sell it to someone else. And the only way they're gonna buy it from you is if we offer them some extensive provision, right? Not we, I mean somebody 50 years from now. I don't know if you're following what I'm saying, like, I don't know, I guess I just feel like it's at the pleasure of what, like, tell us everyone what you think.
I'm just wondering, there are advantages for a business like Mark's to locate at the airport. And if we want his business to stay at the airport and expand at the airport, hopefully, and maybe attract other businesses, I think we have to consider how to write a lease that is attractive to the leasee. So I certainly get his perspective that, trying to resell a building 20 years in without any provision that lease would be renewed, that would be pretty difficult.
I appreciate that as well. I guess I do echo the fear that we are entering into something that in 40 years the council is trying to figure out how to get money to buy a building that they had nothing to do with.
So I can see both sides, like I
Me
have
too.
a great deal of interest in the economic development and your company's success out there. And the fact is frankly, this is a 40-year non-issue. Like, it really, this provision means nothing to any of us for 40 years, so, one could say, well, let's just wing it, let's go for it. And maybe that's the right choice, I'm not saying it's not.
I think
But let me ask you one question about this, so, let's assume we fix the lease to your liking and we make that work. The guy that wants to build a single box hangar for a single plane, he now has precedent to get the same. It's no economic development. It's really not affording us any real, we're not doing it from the point of incentives like we are maybe to you, and I'm not saying you're viewing it as an incentive, but it feels kind of like we would be going outside the industry standard to do this. So are they afforded the same provisions in their lease?
I think that to do expansion at the airport, we are going to have to go out from an industry standard to an extent, and that's why a lot of the smaller airports are not expanding. Is right now we have opportunity. I mean, Kelly Stray at PNC Steel has started looking into getting investors to help us expand the airport out here. Sean Thornton, I guarantee it, if it doesn't have renewal terms, will not build a building here. It's going to be something that will restrict the growth of the airport. So what I want is to kind of brainstorm with you guys, how do we write something that's attractive to somebody, something that preserves their equity in the building? Because what I've run into talking to everybody, 90% of the people I've discussed this with have zero interest in building anything out there if they have to surrender it. That I guarantee you nothing will ever happen out there. It won't grow. It's gonna stagnate and go nowhere. But I understand fully your concern about having to have provisions in there that allow protection to the town. So we might have to get creative, but we'll have to figure out how to write something that allows, I think the best option in my eyes is write something in there that allows you, if the town doesn't want to buy it, it allows you to sell it and then renegotiate the lease with the town. Because the way I see it is, let's say somebody gets in there that's a problem. The town needs to retain right to renegotiate the lease with the person this guy is trying to sell it to. Let's say Sean comes out and builds his hangar. The council likes Sean. Sean's not a problem. He is good for the town, but Sean decides to sell the building, and this new guy becomes a serious issue. There has to be some provision in there to make them leave, or to kick them out, basically. So I think that it needs to have some kind of a clause in there that you have to have council approval and renegotiation of the lease upon sale of the building. So essentially the lease would be terminated. Let's say 12 years down the road I sell the business. I think that the renegotiation needs to happen at point of sale at that point with the person interested in building or buying that building at that point. Because I have thought about this a bit, and I think that's the best way around it, is to have a clause in there that if the building is sold, this lease is voided. It has to be renegotiated and then reapproved at point of sale. Because then the town is entering into a new agreement with a new owner versus the new owner adopting whatever terms are left on it. That's my suggestion. Whether or not that's something that can be done, I don't know. But we don't have to make any decisions tonight, of course. This is all something that you guys can discuss amongst yourselves, of course, but that's kind of what I
Well, I
would like
think
to
it's
see.
gonna, like, I just restate that I don't disagree with you, and if development is what we want, perhaps we need to go outside the box.
I think that there's a lot of opportunity right now. Fort Collins just bulldozed 64 T hangars and are not rebuilding them. So, and they're trying to shut down Boulder Airport. I've been getting a lot of calls from people wanting to put stuff up this way. I think now the next few years is going to be a really good time to try to grow it. But I agree, we need to put careful consideration into what those lease terms look like in the event the building is sold.
Mark, I think what has been looked at on these long-term leases with the airports is that basically you're getting a sweetheart deal on a really long-term lease. And essentially you're selling the building to the airport based on a really long-term sweetheart deal that you got to build a building with a very low lease on it. And that's how a lot of this is being looked at is basically because of the terms that you get on the lease. That's why most of them end in surrender of the building, is because the municipality or the airport needs to be compensated somehow for basically doing a lost leader on the original lease. And I'm not sure where we're at in that aspect of this lease that we're talking about, because I don't know what the terms of the lease actually were, but that's where a lot of those came from. And then in addition to that, as the owner of the business, you're depreciating the building every year. So you're getting the depreciation of the building and a sweetheart deal on the lease. And that's why almost all of them end in termination of the property going back to the airport. That's where that came from. So it's not this isn't something that was.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that as a philosophy. I also think, we have the ability to do something outside of that, but in terms of your explanation of why that's commonplace, I think between depreciation and reasonable per square foot lease for the property is, and I know we have some issue with the number that was changed from one version to the other, and we can certainly look at that as well. In terms of our original lease example we sent to him had 22 cents, now it has 40 cents.
Which, for the council's reference, the last attached sheets of this are a 500-mile radius around us of what all of the per square foot leases are at different airports. And this is YDOT's 2024 numbers, so it gives everybody kind of a reference of what is the going rate. Because all of us, I think, just kind of had to pull a number out of our hat on that, but I tracked this down. It's got commercial leases.
You know how I know
and
you're
leases.
young?
What?
It's because nobody over 30 could read this.
Oh.
Even with my glasses.
Yeah, see yeah.
I
I can,
Really?
it's easier on a computer because you can zoom in on it. So,
Yeah, no, I
anyway,
get it.
that said though, coming shortly, if we can come to some agreement that everybody's happy with on the lease, what we're looking to do next year is to build a 9,000 square foot 145 repair station out here. So,
Is it necessary that the facility be located on the
absolutely,
airport? It does, okay.
yes, we are handicapped severely for space right now.
Well, I mean, is what you're wanting to do, does it necessitate having a runway
Yep.
immediately by it?
Yep, because we're looking to get into jets, and that's something else we'd like to do in the next few years, is get jet fuel out there, whether that's the town or us, one way or the other. I'd like to make that happen.
Do you have a bigger copy of this?
You know, the way they formatted it, you'd have to split it.
Can you
into
send
two
it as a
different
PDF?
pages. Yes, I can send it to you guys as a PDF.
Yeah.
So, and this is something that I just don't know the answer to, is where to put buildings if we do this. One of the things that everybody said would be nice, though I don't know if this is feasible or not, would be putting it beside the current FBO on the apron. Whether or not we still need those tie downs is unknown to anybody. They don't really get used, but,
So just to fill you in, this is a question we had of our engineer about what would happen if we remove some tie downs to accommodate this building, and that's still out floating. We're still waiting for some clarification on
Okay.
that. But I don't mean to jump into your presentation here, but since you brought up that one first, the question that had occurred to me is, you have both of you sit on a airport advisory committee. Were there thoughts from people that weren't you about removing tie downs?
nothing
I
negative. Jeff Wolf
It's a-
said he doesn't think it's a problem, Kevin says he doesn't think it's a problem. Thus far, we haven't had anybody say anything negative about it. Cause those are the ones that don't get used, they face east. The only way you'd ever tie down there is if you got a strong prevailing wind out of the east, which doesn't really happen here. You're supposed to face the,
You're supposed to, except for our airport plan shows only two planes tied down, and they're both facing east. So one of them sat out there for like 4 years.
anyway, that's
Yeah.
not the right, you're
I know what you're
not
saying.
normally doing that, so.
So, here's a question I have, is obviously more dirt work, but this physical separation you show from your box to the existing box to the FBO,
The state of Wyoming changed the easement requirement to 50 feet effective January 1st of this year.
but
It
is it,
used to be 10, now it's 50.
I assume you did because you're a thorough guy, but is that as drawn 50
Yes.
feet, or is
It
that
is, that's as
50
drawn,
feet
50
from
feet.
the
Mhm.
edge of the
Yeah,
concrete?
initially we were wanting to go closer with everything, but BNC went and looked into the state laws, and now Wyoming requires commercial buildings to have 50-foot easements between them. Which kind of is a bit of a pain for the box hangers, because it is what it is, it's a law, we have to abide by it, but it is a bit of a waste of space.
So I guess I have another question about that drawing.
Oh,
Given the way you work on stuff, is there a requirement that, could you accomplish 9,000 square feet a different way? With a narrower front but deeper to the west?
yeah, I'll need the front to be about 100 wide
And this is drawn at 150.
at 150, so yeah, you could change
So
the
we
layup
might
of it a
save
bit.
one space at the most, right?
Yeah, which that might be a good idea potentially, because this is just a really rough idea. You could probably save that northwest one up there.
I'm just asking, if we're not saving that much, if it was if it substantially changed your plan in a way that would make it not work, but I understand that.
Or another thing we could do is we could do the parking on the west side, because it, I think, actually make it so you could keep that furthest south one. So yeah, this layout could be altered a little bit depending on what we find out. This is the requested location, it would be the most practical for us beside the FBO, but if we have to go somewhere else, then we'll figure that out. I'd just like to try to, if we can get answers on this soon, get moving on it, because I'm gonna need, to start finalizing building designs and all that. And then Sean Thornton, the airline pilot, requested that I discuss the location of where he wants to put his. That's on the smaller
Which
60
one
by
is-
50 building.
So this second one is your alternate location.
Yes, so that's gonna be an overflow building.
So
Which-
that is in addition to this one that you wanna build?
Yes, it's in addition to that, and today's a good example of why we need that. We had somebody fly in about 10 minutes before that thunderstorm came in, and their plane got pelted by hail out at the airport. So we'd like to get something up that can do overnight storage, and
And this would be a business you would also manage?
yes,
Okay.
that one's in partnership with a couple other guys. Not as urgent as the other building. And then somebody mentioned that the town has a bunch of crushed asphalt, potentially. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, that would be really nice to haul in and put at the front of the gate there and up to the apron, which I'll do all of the moving and leveling and all that, if that's still available.
I don't know what we have left, but we could look into that.
But, and then
There's
if
not
that's
much
not
left.
available, pardon?
We don't have much left,
Okay,
as Kim, but like when we do, it could be on a list of
Oh, absolutely.
do with
We
it.
got tons of crushed concrete.
okay. But we gotta do something about, at
That'd
some
actually
point,
be nicer, the crushed concrete.
one,
We got tons of that.
anything would be great.
You're
because
saying
It
that
does turn
it's-
into a mud pit out there.
Oh,
Yeah, especially, it's a lake right now, it's just a mess.
okay,
got
so
a
it just
vehicle.
needs shaped and
Yeah.
something to do. Okay.
Yeah, where everybody's parking, we've just gotta get some crushed granite or concrete or something to improve the,
To the south of the building.
yeah. And then we'd like to, if we do end up putting a new building up next spring, do some landscaping around the current FBO to make it look a little bit more presentable, cause it gets pretty rough out there. I just would like permission from the council, if I start improving it out there, am I allowed to do that, hauling granite out and leveling it and making it nicer out in front of that building?
Mark, what is that structure in the middle of the box for the overflow hangar? On the second drawing?
Oh, that was where they parked a semi when they were doing
Oh,
crop dusting out
okay.
there. Yeah, these were images from years and years ago off Google Earth. That area works really well though, because you have that road out of the gate right there, so you could have access to the back end of the buildings there.
This last drawing of the proposed new T hangar. But, well, it's obviously, it must be a box hangar, it only goes,
Either or, that's just an idea.
okay.
There's people interested in investing in just expanding the airport because of the situation going on with Fort Collins and surrounding airports right now. Space is a commodity at the moment.
Okay.
So what all's in the 12,000 square feet?
Well, we were thinking 12, we're probably gonna go 9 just because of space constraints.
So that's just this building.
Yeah, so
The rest of these pages are not part of the lease.
those would be additional leases, so I'm proposing 4 different structures here. each of those yellow boxes, 1, 2, 3. And then the fifth one's just suggested improvements out there that I'd like to do.
This proposed overflow hangar and the Sean Thornton hangar, they would be a continuous building with a separation wall, otherwise you have
Initially,
to have
we
the
were-
50 feet.
Initially, we were thinking to do it that way, but if you do 2 doors in line like that, it makes the building really expensive because they have to do this ridiculously substantial beam across where the doors go. It would be more practical to do them as separate buildings. It adds about 30 to 40% to the cost of the structure if you do them as one. I thought initially it would be less expensive doing it that way, but it turns out it's the other way around. It's worse if you do them as one building. So ideally what we do is the 100 by 60 and then have the 50-foot required easement between it and the other one.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. I think we just need to talk internally about some issues.
Okay, thank you for your
Any-
time, everybody.
Any questions from Mark? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other visitor comments? Department reports, Jana,
Nothing.
Dave?
Well, obviously, Mark talked a lot about what I would have talked about. The airport authority met on August 1st and discussed the hangar lease agreement a little bit and potential hangar building expansion, as well as expansion on the existing FBO building. Kevin reported that the fuel pump was operational again. There was an issue with that a few weeks back. Reminded everybody of the fly-in scheduled for September 7th. And there'll be free airplane rides. Flight for Life will be there for a walk around, and also planned as a car show for that event. They're planning to have a catered brunch in. That's gonna run from 8 to 12 on the 7th. There's some other goodies and giveaways that are planned too. We'll have to see how that comes together. The town has offered to assist with some human resource needs to make that event possible. So appreciate that. And then Mark talked a lot of, and he touched on that a little bit about what he'd like to do as far as expanding his business on site. There's some real advantages to that. With the contracts that he has now and potentially would have, the building that he's currently occupying just isn't sufficient for his needs. So, was reported there was a small fire in one of the electrical panels. Apparently it was diagnosed as a wire nut that wasn't tightened. I don't think that was terribly significant, but it was something that was brought up. And then, yeah, talk about hauling in some crushed rock or granite or gravel or something to put around several of the buildings to kind of keep the weeds down. And then we did touch on mouse control again. I don't know, Kim, I know that we talked about that a while ago, and I don't know if we've done anything special there or in addition to what we're currently doing. I think there is still a concern that there might be some mice getting into the building, and so I don't know if we could put some bait stations outside or not, but
Okay.
something we can certainly talk about. That was kind of the highlights.
Great. I don't have much, but before it swings past me and I forget, I'd just like to thank everyone for their efforts at Trail Days, and seems to have went really well. I don't think there were any major issues, so. Lots of people, lots of fun to be had and all of that, so. Jana whacking people with candy and things like that.
Always try to hit one.
It was a good event, well planned.
Yeah, the Saturday night thing was good. All the events seemed to go off pretty well, so. Melly?
Nothing major, just wanted to thank the town staff, the police department, Kim, Public Works for all of their help over the Trail Days weekend. You guys put in a ton of hours into a really long weekend, and I think everyone enjoyed it, so with your help, that happened. So thank you guys for that. I imagine we are having a WAM regional meeting in September. I have not heard an official date, but when I do, I will let you guys know, and that's all I have.
And I've got nothing.
Alex?
Try chickens to get rid of the mice.
Chickens?
That seems like a really good idea.
Yeah, about 50 chickens, and I think you'd solve that problem. I don't have anything.
Good idea.
What do they do with propellers?
Yeah, birds at an airport. Wonderful.
Inducing birds to the airport. We'll have to think about that.
We're trying to think out of the box.
Chief Smith?
Mayor, Town Council, I'd like to invite you on Saturday. We'll have our Pine Bluffs National Night Out. I'd like to publicly thank JD Manufacturing for sponsoring this event this year. It's really appreciated. We'll be having a canine demonstration along with kids raffles and hot dogs and hamburgers. So, and then the pool will be open as well. So, be a fun event, and love to see you guys.
Will Rodney be there tracking down the winners?
Yep. He's gonna be the announcer.
He needs a, yeah. Keep in mind, they're small children.
Actually, Saturday, I'm off that weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Pat's here. Do you have anything to add, Pat?
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, next month, I'd like to recognize our folks that passed their advanced EMT class, just maybe the start of a meeting, just a quick list.
That'd be great.
Love it.
You could ping them on a pack or something, I'm looking at the details, but do something to recognize their efforts next month.
Great idea.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Cool.
Thanks. Kim?
As you know, we're getting closer and closer to our, the start of our north property. Tomorrow we have the bid opening for the electric distribution portion of that project. That's at 2 o'clock, so hopefully we'll have some good news for you guys after that. We have a placeholder right now of August 27th at 11 for the pre-construction meeting. We're still trying to finalize that, but we're hoping to get that finalized this week and get that date to you. I'm also working on pulling together the groundbreaking ceremony. Just getting your opinions on this. We're thinking maybe the first week that they'll have all their equipment and everything out here would be that week of September 9th when they're actually breaking ground and doing something. So I didn't want to have the groundbreaking 2 weeks before anybody started doing work. It would just leave a lot of questions. So we're probably thinking maybe that week of September 9th for the groundbreaking. Also a reminder that the primary elections are August 20th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The polling location here in Pine Bluffs will be at the community center, and I will be out of the office that day. I'll be working at the LCCC polling center. So Renee and Jericho will be holding down the fort that day.
Anything else?
Nope. Our next meeting is the 28th, Wednesday the 28th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.